Hello everybody, welcome to a new video. I've, apart from juggling, always loved reading good books. So today I'm going to start a video series that I've been thinking about starting for a while, and I think people may find interesting. As I like books and I like juggling, I like reading juggling books. And a lot of juggling publishing companies have popped up recently, like Modern Vaudeville Press, ND Juggling, all the David Kane books, and so many more publishing companies that have been around for a while. And there's some really good, inspiring juggling books that I've read, and in a way this is going to be a review of Karl-Heinz Ziethen, The Guru of Juggling by Alberto Fontanella. So yeah, it's this book right here. As you can see, this light is a little tough. Yeah, it reflects a lot. Either way, maybe I'll just put an image right here. So yeah, this book is published by ND Juggling, and it was quite a fascinating book. If you guys don't know, Karl-Heinz Ziethen is someone who really impacted juggling as we know it, more than most people even know. So this book is kind of a biography about Karl-Heinz Ziethen, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very good book. It not only talks about Karl-Heinz Ziethen, it also talks about all the people he impacted, and basically, Karl-Heinz Ziethen is responsible for putting together most of the history that we know of juggling. That basically now, like David Kane, Eric Overy, all these other people who study juggling history base their research on. Yeah, so Karl-Heinz Ziethen has basically impacted the direction of juggling in a lot of ways. Like this book talks about how he was very good friends with a lot of the great jugglers that we highly admire today that have, created new paths of juggling, like Michael Motion, Francis Brunn, Anthony Gatto, Chris Cremo. The list goes on and on and on. And yeah, it's just so fascinating just to hear about, his friendship with all these people that we highly admire. Yeah, Karl-Heinz Ziethen basically encouraged some of these jugglers to pick the path like that they focused on and innovated on. It's very fascinating. There's so many sections of this book that says crazy stories like that, like Michael Motion talking to him, and after talking to him, he's like, now I know what to do. Now I know what direction I'm supposed to take my juggling in. So in a way, he was a guru of sorts when it comes to juggling. He became also a circus critic, and he's often highly regarded because of what he knows about all things circus, but especially juggling. And also this book really has a lot of crazy details about juggling history in terms of the formation of the IJA. It talks about Russian circus history as well, talking about when Lenin enacted a decree to nationalize theaters and circuses, which highly boosts the technical level of a lot of jugglers. And we see it still today, that we see a ton of jugglers coming out of Russia in all these institutions doing all these crazy tricks. And yeah, that definitely impacted juggling history, but also the downside of that is that basically when Lenin took over, they destroyed all the history of the jugglers before Lenin, before the communists came in. So yeah, that's just a random fact that he covers over there, because he met a lot of Soviet jugglers that most of the world had no contact with outside of Russia. So yeah, Karl-Heinz Ziethen basically connected the juggling world and the variety world. Really He also helped revive variety shows in Germany. Yeah, like this book is a really good book to read because it really encapsulates a lot of the industry. So if you're a up-and-coming professional juggler, kind of like me, it's good to kind of know and be familiar with the history of a few of these places that Karl-Heinz Ziethen really impacted. And like we hear about, you know, Cirque du Soleil, for example. We hear about Roncalli Circus and all these circuses, and really Karl-Heinz Ziethen was one of the people who connected people that made these circuses as big as they are. Yeah, so this book I found very, very fascinating in that area. Yeah, and also there's large sections on some of, in a way, my favorite historical jugglers. There's one of my favorite historical jugglers, for example, is Enrico Rostelli. Like, his passion for juggling just motivates the heck out of me because he just would grind every single day. But also, like, he just was one of the most joyous people doing his craft. Yeah, he became an international celebrity with his juggling. So yeah, there's like entire sections of like Enrico Rostelli's background that Karl-Heinz Ziethen got connected with. Like Karl-Heinz Ziethen met Enrico Rostelli's widow that she had because of all the different because of World War II. She ended up marrying one of like Mussolini's like generals, and then after that, she still remembered Enrico Rostelli, and that's when Karl-Heinz Ziethen met her. So there's crazy backstories like that, and yeah, Anthony Gatto was also one of Ziethen's good friends. That there's an entire section on Gatto, and there's like very interesting arguments in terms of how good of an artist Gatto was, or was it basically just technique, which is a very interesting take. Yeah, I'm like, I am heavily inspired by Gatto's juggling, as you guys probably can tell. So I admire Gatto a lot, and I think his technical ability is an expression of art. But yeah, some people argue he lacked the emotion to make us invested enough in his art or whatever. So there's some interesting takes in this book that are phrased way better than what I'm phrasing right now. Yeah, this book, only 211 pages, which it looks bigger than that, but it's actually, so actually a good portion of the book here is pictures, and like some of these pictures are like incredibly fascinating, because some of these are just letters that were just written to him from a lot of amazing jugglers, like, you know, Anthony Gatto's in here, Victor Key's in here, you know, Francis Brunn, all these, you know, like, it's so cool to see, like, the letters back and forth between, like, these high acclaimed artists and Ziethen, because he really impacted their career as much as those people impacted juggling. One of the most interesting takes of this book is the modern era of juggling and how the industry is right now. Yeah, and it's kind of like he's not very happy about the situation with the industry right now when it comes to like the modern era of entertainment. Because back then you would hear about a juggler that's amazing and you would see him 5 years later and you would remember that act forever and you would hold it in high regard. And nowadays, because of the insane amount of entertainment and insane amount of things we see on a daily basis, it seems like we appreciate less, you know, what we see. So he can't name a juggler besides Gatto in the modern era that matches any of the level of anyone that came before, back before the social media age. So it's very interesting. In some way, I feel like this is one area I may disagree slightly with this take, is because I think there is a little bit of bias, because I feel like there's always a nostalgia when we see our favorite jugglers for the first time that we'll never get back. I remember in the early 2000s, well, around the 2010s, when I started juggling and I started watching YouTube videos, and there's like the Wes, Patrick, Tony era of juggling where they were posting crazy videos constantly, and I feel like nothing will beat that nostalgia for me, because that's that was when I started juggling and when I started admiring jugglers. That initial just surprise and joy of seeing something you're learning how to do, I think, is unmatched. So I feel like Karl-Heinz Ziethen may have that in some regard, because it's like, oh, it's not like the old days. What impacted me the most, like back in the old days, if that makes sense. I'm like, in a way, we consume juggling in a very different manner nowadays, so it's hard to consume it in that way when your most nostalgic moment was when you started seeing these amazing jugglers. But yeah, that's just an opinion of mine after reading the book. But I would say also, though, he may also be right in terms of the level of excellence that jugglers put in back then. And I think back then there were more innovators than they are now. I think we have more people that are expanding juggling nowadays, but not really. Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to see. It's hard to say based on what I'm exposed to, but base core ideas in terms of contact juggling, the Michael motion, in a way. In a way, like popularized, and he also popularized fire spinning, and also bouncing bounce balls in like a triangle, and against surfaces underneath tables, and all like a lot of those different methods of juggling were not seen before back then, or at least not known of. It's also hard to invent something nowadays because everyone's posting their inventions, which then no one's the inventor of anything. So it's very hard, or it's a very different era nowadays in terms of that. Another area in which Karl-Heinz Ziethen criticizes the modern industry of circus and juggling, that I completely agree that he's correct about this criticism. He talks about how these big companies are creating jobs that, make you replaceable. Instead of having a juggler be entirely original, and that being the basis in which they hire you. They may hire you in the first place to start something original, but then when you can't do that job anymore, they hire someone else to copy the same act that you did, to not change the show at all, instead of allowing people's individuality to shine. I totally can see that in the modern day industry. I wish I could see jugglers doing their tricks instead of learning someone else's tricks to get their job after they don't want to do that job in that production. That's a very interesting point he makes. But yeah, one encouragement he also talks about in the book is that even juggling through the Dark Ages survived when basically people were burned at the stake because they confused juggling with witchcraft. And he says we should hold out hope in a way that juggling will come around again. And from my perspective, I think juggling is advancing in a lot of ways that I feel like a lot of professionals in the field may not see in the same way because it's very performance based. But if I think of technical level, no one is anywhere near Gatto's status. But I can see everyone focusing on their individual strengths and maxing those out. Like if someone does numbers clubs, for example, Moritz Rosner beat the 8 club record, and someone beat the 8-ball record, so everyone specializes in their specific pattern nowadays and is maxing those out to the point that it's no longer one person that holds all the records, but it's so many people that are holding records. So it's definitely a different time. But yeah, just to conclude, this book is phenomenal. I'll leave a link in the description for this book because I think it's worth reading. There's so many details I did not mention, even though this video may be long. There's so many things that, I'd be here all day talking about it. So yeah, definitely check this book out if you're interested in juggling history, and also if you're interested in just learning about someone else who impacted juggling in some of the greatest way anyone can impact juggling with. Yeah, he arguably is, the reason the juggling industry is the way it is in the juggling world is because of this guy. Without this guy, we'd be probably very behind in terms of what is possible and, what we know about any sense of history of juggling. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, let me know. I also wanted to let you guys know I have a Patreon that I will link below that you can go check out, and if you like videos like this, you can go there and support me for the price of a coffee a month. And there I also post exclusive juggling content, such as my juggling acts that I perform. Every act that I perform after the season of performing that act is over, I upload on there for you guys to see. And I also post monthly practice vlogs on there that they're all with balls, rings, and clubs. They're not vlogs in terms of edited, but they're unedited, honestly, on purpose, just so you guys can see the raw, uncut, what I go through when I practice. Some days are good, some days are bad. But yeah, I put those all up there. So, if that's your cup of tea, I'll link that below. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.